Disclaimer: all of the stories featured in this episode of the Infographics Show come from actual military service members or other government officials, many of them vetted by independent researchers and local or national media outlets. It was late on a chilly February morning, 2007. At approximately 0230 hours, a security patrol stationed inside the nuclear weapons storage area of Nellis Air Force Base, otherwise known as Area 2, called into Central Security Control a sighting of what appeared to be vehicle headlights far outside the outer perimeter fence, a mile or two in the distance. This wasn't uncommon, as Area 2 was detached from Nellis Air Force Base, and everything from hikers to off-road enthusiasts would inadvertently stumble upon the little-known facility in the desert. Following standard procedure, the two outer security patrols, Oscars 1 and 2, were dispatched to assume overwatch positions on the reported headlights. Their job, as it often was in these dark desert nights, was to simply observe, and if the civilian vehicle approached too close to the facility perimeter, intercept it and have them turn around. As the two outer security patrols arrived atop the tall bluffs overlooking the reported sighting area, they spotted and confirmed what appeared to be two vehicle headlights approaching down the side of a nearby mountain. Inside of the nuclear weapons storage area, two additional patrols had moved close to the section of the fence the vehicle headlights were approaching, along with the site security supervisor, Security 1. A grand total of 11 Air Force security personnel were watching when suddenly the lights disappeared. Fearing that the oncoming off-road vehicle had turned off its headlights so as not to be tracked, Oscar 1 left its position on the bluffs and moved to an intercept position along the incoming vehicle's estimated avenue of approach. The site's security controller requested the assistance of a main base K9 unit, which had happened to be in the area, and the two patrols linked up, leaving their vehicles behind, moved out to the desert to set up an LPOP, or listening post observation post. The desert, though, was quiet. Despite the incoming vehicle having been within 2 miles of the fence line, there was no sound of a revving engine across the still dark desert. Scans with both thermal imagers and night vision goggles revealed nothing. And then suddenly, the radio came to life. Patrols on the interior of the nuclear weapons depot began calling in lights on either side of the dismounted Oscar 1 and K9 patrol. From their vantage point atop the tall igloo-style weapon bunkers, they could see a series of lights appear in the 12 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and 3 o'clock of the dismounted patrolmen. Incredibly though, the 3 men and 1 dog on the ground could see nor hear anything. Then the site security supervisor came on the radio. "Oscar 1, be advised, the lights are moving on you." The 3 mysterious lights, seen only by interior patrols, suddenly rushed the dismounted patrolman. The senior patrol leader ordered his partner and the K9 patrolman to lock and load. With lights approaching their position on the desert floor at high speed, he was taking no chances. As far as he was concerned, the mysterious and now aggressive behavior of the lights indicated hostile intent. What happened next depends on which side of the fence line you happen to have been on. For the 3 patrolmen and 1 dog on the outside of the fence line, nothing happened. The 3 men held their breath, M4s at the ready, and nervously scanned the desert with thermals and night vision, but spotted nothing. They even checked with the dog, who was trained to indicate if it sensed danger, and yet nothing. After a few minutes, the patrol leader called back in over the radio to ask for an update on the lights, but received nothing but static. Trying a second and then third radio, the exterior patrols got no reply and slowly walked back to their vehicles to attempt to make contact with the interior patrols again. On the inside of the fence, though, at least 24 security forces patrolmen, including the Master Sergeant Security Supervisor, had seen the lights converge on the location of the dismounted patrol and then simply disappear. Even more incredibly though, when the exterior patrolmen finally made contact with the interior patrols, they were told they'd been out of contact for 20 minutes. Yet each man involved in the incident on the outside of the fence line swore that only 3 or 4 minutes had passed for them. Where had the other 15 minutes of time, all spent without radio contact, gone? Things would only get weirder, though, before they got any better. This incident would prove to be only the opening act to some of the strangest events ever reported by U.S. military personnel. And we can tell you about it in first person because at the Infographics Show, we got a chance to sit down with one of the security forces patrolmen involved in these incidents. After the exterior light show incident, things started to get weird. I mean, there had always been weird things out in Area 2. We had everything from ghost stories to weird animal sightings. I'd probably think it was all BS or just tricks the dark plays on you, except a lot of this stuff was seen by numerous people at the same time, or with the help of pretty advanced night vision and thermal imaging devices. What started happening after the lights incident, though, took the cherry in weird and outright dangerous. Within a week of the incident, one of the daytime exterior patrols ran across the corpse of a donkey, which wasn't that weird since there was no civilization around us and animals sometimes wandered out there. What was weird, though, was that this donkey had no head. It was cleanly cut off, and there was some crusted blood around the neck, but there was no blood anywhere around the body on the ground. We ended up shrugging it off, figuring that somebody had butchered the animal, just dumped it in the desert, completely unaware of how close they got to our facility in doing so. But then, just a few days later, another donkey corpse was found, and this one was missing its head and all 4 of its legs. Again, no vehicle tracks, no blood on the ground, just a decapitated legless donkey. The very next day after that, a third donkey was discovered by an exterior patrol, this time at night. This donkey was also missing its head and legs, but it had its stomach cut open with one clean incision, and the entire contents of the body cavity were gone. Once more, there was no blood on the desert floor and no vehicle tracks. We forgot about the donkeys after a while, and even though people kept reporting strange lights, nothing too dramatic happened until about 6 months later. What happened next took the cake. It was almost a full-blown national nuclear security incident. We used to practice assaulting our own storage facilities just in case bad guys got in and tried to steal a nuke, or just barricaded themselves so they could set off a nuke in place and irradiate large swaths of Nevada. One of those nights we underwent our usual exercise scenario, involving a response by multiple patrols and an assault into our designated training structure. All in all, somewhere around 17 to 18 people were involved. Most of the patrols were at the assault training structure, but we kept the patrol armed with an M249 machine gun on overwatch just to keep an eye on the desert behind us. Now, Area 2, the nuclear weapons storage depot, was huge, several square miles, so there was lots of empty desert inside the fence perimeter. As we were lining up to assault the training structure, we suddenly got a call over the radio from our overwatch patrol located on a hill about a quarter-mile from us. The patrol said, "Hey, you got 2 figures lying prone in the desert behind you." We assumed this was part of the training exercise, so our on-scene commander redeployed a small element to secure our rear as the rest of the response force prepared to assault. However, our flight leader, or security supervisor, immediately came running up to us and told us to lock and load. He then called over the radio and told Central Security Control to terminate the exercise. Then he turned to look at us and said, "I didn't put anyone out in the desert. Whoever's out there is not us." Now, our security supervisor was in charge of running the exercises, and he would task random people with playing the bad guys. So when he told us that he hadn't put anyone out there, our blood ran cold. This was about as high a security area as you can get in the US military, home to dozens of nuclear weapons. Anyone who had somehow penetrated our security was not here to have a friendly chat. We immediately returned our magazines to our weapons and charged them, switching safeties off. Our Overwatch patrol had good eyes on the figures. One of the guys on that patrol was using a sensitive thermal camera, and the other was using night vision. That's the standard procedure for us since it gives you 2 vision modes to ID a target. According to them, the figures seemed to be laying on their bellies, watching us from about 100 meters behind, hiding behind a small berm. The desert out there was pitch black, so we got into a long line and formed a sweeping element. 2 heavy gunners on Humvees watched our backs and got ready to light up anything that turned hostile as we started our sweep in the desert. As we approached, our Overwatch patrol warned us that the figures were crawling into new positions. They were actually reacting to our movements and trying to remain hidden. According to the 2 guys who could see them over night vision and the thermal unit, the figures appeared frantic, as if panicking at having been discovered observing us. Yet they never stood up and stayed low on the ground on their bellies. For us, on the sweeping element, we couldn't see a thing, despite also using our own night vision goggles. However, the desert was thick with brush, so staying unseen would have been pretty easy for anyone laying low. We kept on moving forward, weapons at the ready, as our Overwatch patrol stayed in constant contact with us, letting us know what the figures were doing. Then, as we got within 25 meters, they just vanished. According to the Overwatch patrol, the 2 figures were there one moment and then completely disappeared the next. No flash of light, no sound, nothing, just disappeared. We rushed forward to the last known location and swept the area, finding nothing. Although one of our guys had brought his handheld thermal imager and was actually able to pick up traces of warmth on the desert floor. Somebody or something had in fact been laying on that floor, long enough to heat it up, watching us as we practiced our assault techniques. That incident might have been bone-chilling to hear about, definitely to have lived through, but it was far from the only incident involving possible UFOs or even aliens and nuclear weapons. Throughout the Cold War, the United States and even the Soviet Union had several extremely high-profile incidents involving nuclear weapons and UFOs, and these incidents have been reported by individuals with extremely high levels of credibility. In 1977, unidentified flying objects not only proved that they could intrude on U.S. airspace unimpeded, but that they might even have full control over our nuclear weapons. As told by United States Air Force Technical Sergeant Thomas E. Johnson, who was a flight security supervisor at the time, one night a security alert team was dispatched in response to strange lights low in the sky. At the time, Johnson was stationed at a North Dakota missile field. home to dozens of Minuteman intercontinental ballistic missiles housed in underground silos, ready to fire on the Soviet Union at a moment's notice. As the team neared the reported area, they spotted lights in the sky ahead of them, varying in color. The lights would zoom from one location to another at impossible speeds, or other times would simply blink out in one location and blink in at another location. The security team leader said that he couldn't tell if they were multiple objects or just one incredibly fast object. Prior to the incident, the security personnel had been briefed by Air Force Office of Special Investigation agents that unknown helicopters had been reported at other Strategic Air Command bases. The Office of Special Investigation, or OSI, is like the Air Force's FBI, and the special briefings indicated that something very peculiar was going on at other U.S. Air Force bases. Yet that night, the object, or objects, didn't move like helicopters and made no sound. What they did do, though, was far more terrifying. Directly under the lights, the missile launch officers responsible for launching the Minutemen in case of war reported that they lost control over some of the 10 missiles they were in charge of. One of the launch officers later said that they couldn't communicate with the missiles, and if they had needed the launch, they would have been unable to. Incredibly, though, this type of incident would be repeated numerous times throughout the Cold War, and sometimes the actual targeting codes programmed into each missile would be altered or completely erased. Each of these occurrences always happened in conjunction with sightings of UFOs. Are UFOs monitoring our nuclear weapon sites? Is it a coincidence that every major nuclear weapon or production facility in the United States has a long history of UFO sightings? For a growing number of people, the UFO interest in our nuclear weapons is very real, and the case was only strengthened when, after the fall of the Soviet Union, former Soviet military and government officials revealed that their nuclear sites had also been host to UFO incidents. Are we being visited by aliens? Check out our video, Were these historic monuments actually secret alien invasions? Or perhaps you'd rather watch something a little less out of this world? Then click this video instead. Either way, click one now before the Zeti reticulans eat all of our brains.